Trucker Dump, episode 164. This week we discuss autonomous yard trucks, new regulations, government overreach, a new trucker movie, more on AB5, the 15 best truck stops in the U.S., electric vehicle charging and battery issues, hot tires, what young people are looking for in trucking careers, and believe it or not, more safety blitzes. Good googly goo. This episode of Trucker Dump is sponsored by Porter Freight Funding. You can learn more at porterfreightfunding.com/truckerdump, all one word.
Welcome to Trucker Dump, where you'll get one driver's insights and sometimes humorous views of truck driving and the trucking industry, and pretty much anything else he feels like dumping on you. This podcast is brought to you by abouttruckdriving.com. Resources to help you understand the world of truck driving through the use of stories and a pathetic attempt at humor.
Yodelly ho ho, trucker dumpers, how's it going out there? Are you staying cool? Because it's a little hard right now, isn't it? Man, is it freaking hot outside. The only good part is I don't have to mow my yard quite as much because everything's freaking dead. So hey, for those of you new to the show, my name is Todd McCann. I am a 25-year trucker. I'm obviously a podcaster, and I am the author of 2 trucking ebooks. One is called How to Find a Great Trucking Job, and the other is called Trucking Life, which includes a 9.25-hour audiobook included in that. You can buy both of those books wherever you buy your ebooks, or if you want to get 25% off for buying both books, head over to abouttruckdriving.com and check out the ebook combo pack. So hey, I hope that life is treating you fairly and you were not affected by the safety blitz last week. If you were, please write in and tell me your story, truckerdump@gmail.com. But guess what? The torment isn't over. But that is a story for Trucker News. Yipper, we start out with yet another safety blitz. Good Lord Almighty, what is happening here? Give us a break, would you already? Found this one on cdllife.com. Arkansas to kick off 2-week speeding crackdown. Yep, just as soon as the last one ended, and it was on speeding, as we mentioned, this one is called Obey the Sign or Pay the Fine. This starts on Monday, July 18th, and will continue for 2 weeks all throughout the state of Arkansas. It says here that they will be accepting no excuses for speeding. The speed limit is the speed limit. Don't break it. Wow. Okay. Well, you've been warned. Shortest story ever. cdllife.com. All right. You remember how a few episodes ago we talked about how the Supreme Court refused to even look at the AB5 lawsuit thing going on out there in California? This is the one about the owner-operators staying owner-operators or lease operators, let's say that, and not having to become employees. Well, like I said, they refused to look at that, and that meant the California law was going forward. That meant about 70,000 lease operators were going to have to either become employees of their companies or they were going to have to move out of state, basically, and they could not operate in the state. So all kinds of havoc we knew was going to happen from it. Well, here is the first bit of what has happened. We go back to freightwaves.com on this one, and there was a big work stoppage at the LA and Long Beach ports. They said they handed out at least 350 T-shirts to protesters, so there was at least that many that showed up. And they said they were trying not to block traffic and, just stay out of the way, but they just wanted to make sure that they got their voices heard and how pissed off they were about this whole thing. Their shirts actually said no AB5 on them. So, yeah, well, that pretty much says it. They're not very happy with the whole situation. This article goes into how, a lot of these drivers, that's their dream. They're first and second generation. They wanted to, immigrants a lot of times, and they wanted to own their own business. They didn't come over here and want to work for somebody else. They want to own their own business, and this just shatters all those dreams, which is not cool at all. Way to go, California. And way to go, Supreme Court, for not seeing it. Well, what can you say? They're the Supreme Court. They're going to do what they want to do, right? We've seen that a lot lately. Okay, not going to get into all that. But anyway, they did say there was limited or no disruption at these ports. They did not want to cause a problem, although they did say there was a lot of traffic backups from different things that were happening, with there was some slow rolls. Not everybody showed up in their truck, but there was some slow rolls, and there was some, a little bit of stoppages. Not everybody's going to be perfect, right? So that is what happened in Long Beach and LA. That was going on Wednesday. And they're planning the Oakland drivers over there are planning one in the Oakland port next Monday. So by the time you're hearing this, if you're hearing this late, it may already be over, and I'll probably be able to follow up on that one next week to figure out, what happened over there and if there was any big problems. Hopefully there will not be. So anyway, we knew Californians were not going to be happy about this, and here is the first of it. I can't imagine it will be the last. And I hope all of these lease operators figure out some way around it, or maybe the state reconsiders what they're doing. Hopefully, to be continued. Hey, here's one that you can chalk up to just knowing something about the trucking industry. May not be relevant to you at all, may never be, but hey, at least you'll know what's going on. So what are we talking about? Freightwaves.com. Refrigerated carriers combine as KLLM acquires Quest Global. So they're both reefer companies, so that makes sense. It's a perfect match. Quest Global was based in Cartersville, Georgia, and they specialize in expedited transportation with coast-to-coast coverage utilizing driver teams. So expedited, get it there as fast as possible. KLLM is going to continue to operate them separately. They're just going to rebrand them as KLLM Expedited Services, and KLLM will just continue on as normal. So again, none of this really matters to you unless you work for this company, but here's the article in case you're interested in it. Freightwaves.com. By the way, I really like the looks of Quest Global's trucks. They got this really cool red, it's bright red, and it's got this really cool white star kind of logo on the side. It's really big, cool looking trucks. Way cooler than KLLM. Got to say that. Sorry, KLLM. All right, onward. All right, overdriveonline.com has an article here that would like to remind all independent owner-operators and fleets of all sizes that you must file Form 2290 with the Internal Revenue Service to pay annual heavy highway vehicle use tax. And that tax season opened on July 1st. Now, like I said, I'm not going to get into all of this because maybe, if you own your own truck, you have now been reminded, and you can go and read this article here. Just click the link in the show notes and go directly to it. Or you already know how to file and all that stuff. No big deal. But as, we've been talking about recently, there have been a lot of new business owners, new business applications for truckers due to the AB5 thing. And, just in general, with all the regulations, people are just, trying to start their own businesses and things with more regulations. So, anyway, just check this one out. But I did find something interesting on down here that, I had talked in maybe previous, I don't know. Since I'm doing these all out of order now, I never know how they're going to end up. So it's either going to be in an article that I talked about a little bit ago or coming up a little bit later. But I had speculated that pretty much every leased operator would have owned their own businesses. And I just thought, well, of course. Well, why wouldn't you? Well, apparently this article right here says this includes owner-operators whose businesses are sole proprietorships and who file taxes routinely with their Social Security numbers for identification. So I guess that means there are actually lease operators and owner-operators who just have sole proprietorships. They don't have any corporation or LLC to protect them from anything. And honestly, this amazes me. This shocks me to death. If you are an owner-operator out there or a lease driver who just runs this as a sole proprietorship, tell me why. Because it's really all about liability, right? And I wouldn't think you'd want your whole business to be taken down if you had a wreck or something like that. You could just, get rid of the corporation, and that goes separate from your personal stuff. So I don't know why you would run, like my little business is just a sole proprietorship. It's just basically, the name Double Clutch Media. All I do is just write articles, do a podcast, write books. There's no real liability involved in that. But if you're driving a big rig down the truck, I don't understand this. So someone please explain this to me. truckerdump@gmail.com. Straighten me out. Boy, I'm learning a lot in this episode. Hopefully, if you answer at least. So anyway, if you are interested in this 2290 tax filing season, again, that started on July 1st. Just head on over to this article and check out all the gory details. We've all experienced it. As a matter of fact, I think in Missouri, it's supposed to be the hottest week of the summer. Next week is supposed to be above 100. I think they said it's supposed to get up to like 105, which is not, it's not like it never happens in Missouri, but it's not normally that hot. I mean, that's freaking hot. Well, overdriveonline.com has a reminder for all of us. Tire safety risks can rise with the temperature. I mean, it is nice of them to write this article saying, hey, remember, summer's coming and the heat is really hard on tires. We all know that. But hey, if you want to read all about this, it talks about, signs of wear and tear, things like that. But basically, this is going to be the shortest summation of an article ever. It basically just says, now pay attention here, tires that are underinflated can overheat, and tires that are overinflated can overheat. Well, duh. But anyway, we appreciate the reminder, overdriveonline.com. Check out the link in the show notes. Hey, you remember a while back we talked about the new trucker movie that was on Netflix? It was called The Ice Road. It featured Liam Neeson and Lawrence Fishburne, just to name a couple of the big actors. And, it got questionable reviews, with some of the weird physics and crazy things that trucks were doing. But, hey, it was a new trucker movie, so I'm all for it. And it shed truckers in a pretty good light, making them look all noble and stuff, which is, well, considering what we've got here on the road today, some of what I see, I'm not sure there's a whole lot of nobility, but you get the gist anyway. But hey, there is a new movie coming out. That one was a lot of action. This one has some action too, but it's really drama. It's got a lot of drama in it too. This one is about human traffickers. The title of this article is New Trucking Movie Features a Female Driver in a Battle Against Human Traffickers to Save a Teen Girl. It looks pretty intense. It looks really good. Link in the show notes here will take you to the trailer of the movie. This one actually has 2 Academy Award winners in it. Juliette Binoche, I think is the way you pronounce her name, and Morgan Freeman plays an old FBI agent. So basically, the lady driver, gets roped into this against her will, and she's hauling some human freight, and it goes downhill from there. And like I said, movie looks actually pretty good. I will definitely watch this one when it comes out and give you my thoughts on it. And when does this come out? Looks like it's going to be available in select theaters and video on demand on July 29th. I'll probably wait until this comes out free, but you know what? I guess I should probably say the name of the movie. That might be helpful, right? It is called Paradise Highway. So again, go check out the link in the show notes over here at cdllife.com. And hey, if you watch it, please send in a little quick review. Audio would be great. Just a little quick 3-minute comment, something like that. And shoot it off to truckerdump@gmail.com. Cool. Hey, here's one that we've talked about before. This one involves, younger drivers. I found this on Transport Topics. That's ttnews.com. This one is entitled Younger Drivers Look Beyond Pay When Choosing Carriers. ATRI Finds. ATRI is, of course, American Transportation Research Institute, and they surveyed a bunch of drivers ages 21 to 30 who are currently enrolled in or recently completed an apprenticeship program. They found 40% view pay as the top factor, but the majority, 60%, consider other factors equally as important or even more important. So, I think that's a change from the past. The older drivers were kind of all about pay is the most important thing. And, how much time you spent on the road was, you wanted to spend more time at home, but we just kind of understood that the more you spent time on the road, the more you made. And we were just willing to accept that. Well, the younger generation is not quite so sure about that. So one of the things they pointed out was that they really thought that the trucking industry should try to explain to new truckers, people coming into the industry, what trucking was really all about. Don't sugarcoat anything. Just tell them what the day in the life of a trucker is like. Well, I have a way to do that. It's called Trucking Life, and it's a book by Todd McCann. You can find that at abouttruckdriving.com or any place that you buy your ebooks. I'm getting better at this self-promotion thing. To exhaustion, probably. I realize that. But hey, I'm getting better at it. Besides, you're having to hear it every week now instead of just once every quarter of a year. But anyway, they said this survey found that 15% of younger drivers are really concerned about having a stable career, and that's just as important or about as important as pay, which, well, with truck driving, you may not work at the same company for, 30 years, but with truck driving, it is steady. They said 84% consider company culture important. So, they're looking at the company themselves. Are they sleazy, or do they have a good reputation? How do they treat their drivers? What's their overall, the ambiance around them, like their aura is like, do they have a good reputation or do they not, and they don't want to work for a shady company. So that's understandable. But, in the past, truckers might go, well, they pay a lot, even though they suck. But anyway, that's interesting. They're saying here that 14% said that it was just a love of driving that they were looking for. 10% said they needed a better work-life balance. Career benefits were at 8%. Travel was at 7%. That's a weird one. And new experiences at 6%. I don't know what kind of new experiences they're expecting or travel opportunities. I mean, you are traveling around. I mean, maybe they just don't understand the nature of the trucking industry, that you're not an executive that needs to go for, needs to travel to see clients or, go brush up your skills on a certain topic or something like that. That isn't the way the trucking industry works. So I don't know what they're talking about, opportunities for travel. Just goes to show how little, people outside the trucking industry actually understand about the trucking industry. Wow. But anyway, they did say that the survey, they found it interesting that, even younger drivers were not looking at this as like a short-term thing, but they were more interested in making this a career, like opportunities for advancement and, within the company and, actively being a part of the company more. For instance, they were interested in having the company sponsored, meetups and stuff like that where drivers could get together and possibly managers get together with them and then all just hang out and have a big, company powwow, I guess, and just have a little party and, that kind of thing. They're just looking for a company to be more engaged with, and it's just not all about the money anymore. They're not chasing the money. So just found this was kind of interesting. We all knew this was coming, that the more young generations just have a different outlook on life. They're not so focused on work itself, and they do want more of a balance in their life. And that's been the case for quite a few years. And many trucking companies are trying to accommodate this, with like, just trying to get their drivers home more often, different perks, for drivers like adding XM and DirecTV or something like that, for free. My friend, driver Chris Mack works over at, Prime and, they're going all out with like a lot of their big terminals have, pool tables and basketball courts and stuff like that. And, they have these kind of events for drivers to hang around with each other and just, basically be a home away from home. So sounds like that's what the newer generation is looking for. So maybe Prime is, setting an example here. I guess we will see. So anyway, like I said, if you're interested in this one, head over to Transport Topics. That's ttnews.com. Hey, do you remember a company we mentioned on the show before called Outrider? So Outrider is the company that is into robotics for yard trucks. We talked about them before. They've got a facility in Brighton, Colorado, and they have moved 12,000 trailers autonomously, meaning there's no driver in the vehicle, not being controlled by remote control or anything like that. Just the software and the mechanics of the truck working together to move trucks from the dock to a spot and back and forth and doing it all safely. If you remember right, they had partnered with Georgia Pacific, which is a huge company to partner with. Lots of trailer moves going on there. And they have had this system working at the Chicago Distribution Center, and they've completed more than 1,000 autonomous trailer moves there. And they say they are ready to expand and take this out. They're ready to scale up big time and go nationwide with this thing. So this is going to be very interesting to see if, we start seeing all these trucks in yards. They say their client base represents more than 20% of yard trucks operating in the U.S. Now, they're doing this by a kit. It's basically a retrofit kit, and all they need is for you to have a fully electric truck, a yard truck, which have become far more popular recently because that is honestly the perfect situation to be using an electric truck. They are saying, hey, if you have an electric truck, we can just install our system right there on it. It includes the software and everything for the perception system. It's got LiDAR sensors, so it can see what's around it, and it's also got the industrial robotic arm used for connecting and disconnecting trailer lines. So that's the part I really want to see. I mentioned the first time we talked about this that I want to see a industrial robotic arm reach out and disconnect airlines, because we all know sometimes those things can be a real booger, and they're all in different locations. Sometimes they're in the middle of the trailer, sometimes they're over towards the driver's side, sometimes they're high, sometimes they're low, but whatever it is, they have completed many trailer moves using this system. So again, I want to see a video of how this all works, but apparently it works pretty well and they are expanding. So just be looking for it, and don't freak out if you see a yard truck drive by without a driver in it. For more information on this one, head over to freightwaves.com or click that link in the show notes. Surely you know how this works by now. All right, this one's from freightwaves.com, and well, it doesn't have a lot of relevance right now for trucks, but for the future. So just heads up. This one is entitled Pilot and GM Plan Coast-to-Coast EV Fast Charging Network. This is basically just saying that Pilot is going into business with a GM, and they're going to use a startup called EVgo that's going to install, operate, and maintain these chargers. They're calling it the GM's Ultium Charge 360 network, and it's a bunch of 350 kilowatt chargers that can provide 150 miles of driving range in 10 minutes. Now, keep in mind this is just for cars at the moment, but as the article says, cars is really what's coming up, with the electric cars, and it's going to be a while for the bigger trucks, and they are working on something on that too. But for now, they're going to focus on getting 500 of these into select Pilot and Flying J service plazas starting in early 2023. So early next year, they're going to be starting this, and they're hoping to complete it all by 2025. Of course, Pilot Flying J will be charging for this service, but they're hoping to give discounted prices, because they can get it electricity in bulk. I guess that's how that worked. I don't know. Also, they say if you are a GM owner, you own a GM car, you will be you will get some discounts or possibly even free charging in that. I'm not exactly sure, but they said there will be some benefits for owning a General Motors vehicle that's electric that needs this. But anyway, they say even right now, a lot of these cars cannot accept 350 kilowatt chargers, which is kind of weird that they're doing that, but they just say they're trying to future proof it because they know down the road what's going to be most important is a fast charge. Nobody wants to sit around for 30 or 40 minutes while they charge their car, right? So they're just planning for the future. Now they're going to be strategic about all this, and they say that they are planning to space these out about 50 miles apart, so you never have to go more than about 50 miles, before you run across one of these. But if you look at the map, I'm looking at some places out west, and there's a lot of places that don't have anything within 50 miles. So that's going to be interesting how they pull that one off out in the west. But anyway, as I said, they have no uses for trucks yet, but they are planning on doing something with this in the future. Also, there's a joint venture between Daimler Truck North America, BlackRock Renewable Power, and Next Era Energy Resources. And they plan to about $650 million to go towards charging infrastructure for electric and hydrogen fuel cell medium and heavy duty trucks in the future. And they're expected to do that, start that in 2023, focusing on, major freight routes along the east and west coasts and in Texas. And they plan on having that finished by 2026. So, well, here we go with the electric stuff. Again, I believe it's going to be a long time before we see these used in over-the-road trucks. It just doesn't seem very practical right now. It seems great for yard trucks and local delivery and things like that, where you can take the truck back to your yard or your terminal and plug it in overnight. That seems perfect. Maybe UPS local delivery, things like that, where the trucks are not being used at night. That seems way more fitting. But anyway, if you're interested in these joint ventures here, head on over to freightwaves.com. We talk an awful lot about electric vehicles and how they're the wave of the future, cars and trucks both. It's just going to take time, and everything in the world is going to be electric. But one thing we don't really think about is the safety aspect of them. Yeah, we talk about the efficiency all the time. That's a big thing, and emissions, of course, is the main reason we're going this way. But we never talk about the fires. What happens in a fire? Well, Transport Topics has an article about this. That's ttnews.com. This one's called First Responders Outline Concerns with EV Battery Fires. So they're just saying basically that these are giant batteries, and the only way you can put one of these out is with just lots and lots and lots of water, which is a problem because our current fire trucks can only hold a certain amount of water. And, if you're out in the middle of the boonies somewhere where often these truck accidents happen, or even car accidents for that matter, where are you going to get that extra water? So they've got that to deal with. They've got just the fact that if you do soak it down with water and finally put the fire out, you've just washed a whole bunch of chemicals down into, hazardous chemicals down into streams or lakes or ditches or whatever. So there's that part to deal with that we don't even think about. And of course, there's the electrocution, which I never even thought about. But here's this vehicle. It's crashed. The battery may be damaged. And these firefighters are trying to get people out with these jaws of life and stuff like that. So how do they protect themselves from electrocution when it comes to that whole thing nobody's even been thinking about? Well, except for the firefighters, obviously. They're just like, what the heck, So they are worried about this. They say that, the cars will probably be manageable because they have, fairly small batteries. Well, basically the whole bottom of a car, usually an electric car, is the whole floor is basically one giant battery, but it's still relatively small compared to a truck. These ones in trucks are going to be huge, and that's going to be a major problem. Plus they talk about sometimes these things look fine, but then when they get on the transport vehicle and they're being transferred back to the tow truck place or whatever, where they're going to be stored, they will catch on fire while they're in transit, so that presents a whole nother problem. So once again, just another thing that we're not really thinking about, when it comes to, the world of battery powered vehicles. It's not all, unicorns and rainbows, I guess. Who knew? By the way, last I heard, California still can't have everybody charging their electric cars. And like I said before, they've just got a really low percentage. So what happens when they get everything electric out there? Yes, nobody will just drive. Hey, that'll be perfect for the environment, won't it? Yeesh. ttnews.com. Hey, here's a weird one. It's on overdriveonline.com. This one is called a run at mobile CO2 capture straight from the stacks and growing markets for the gas. I am not going to go into great detail on this one, but there is a company called Remora Carbon, and their whole idea is to mount these huge storage tanks on the back of your cab, and basically the stacks just run into it and it captures the CO2. And you're thinking, well, what are they going to do with CO2? Well, here's the monetary part of it. They're saying that concrete producers use a lot of CO2. I had no idea, but it says, quote, that it strengthen the concrete and reduce the amount of Portland cement they use by injecting CO2 into the curing chamber where it turns into calcium carbonate, strengthening the product. It's both more sustainable and cheaper than most CO2 sources being used today. So their idea behind this is to capture it. Like an owner-operator puts one of these on his truck, or her truck. Sorry, I'm still doing that after all these years. But they'll put one on their truck. They will capture this CO2. This company, Remora, will resell the CO2 and give a cut of that to the owner-operator who captured it. So it's kind of a profit sharing kind of a thing. Now, here's the biggest problem with this so far is this is just like in the prototype stages. This is not going to be available for a long time if it ever comes to market. But also, this thing is fairly heavy, so they're going to have to apply for one of those exemptions, trying to, it says they're going through the process right now of trying to qualify for a 2,000 pound weight variance for tractor trailers outfitted with the system, so right now, like if you have an APU installed, auxiliary power unit installed on your truck, you will often have like a 400 pound weight. What's the word I'm looking for? Basically, if you can go 400 pounds over on your axle weights or your gross weight or whatever, so it's just a way to say, hey, we want to be more eco-friendly, but, by having this APU, we're adding weight, which means we can't haul as much freight. And so it's just kind of a way to offset that thing. Well, this thing, although they're asking for a 2,000 pound weight variance, this thing weighs in at 5,000 pounds and it's 6,200 pounds when it's fully loaded. Man, that is a lot of extra weight to add. Now, I'm not sure how much batteries, they're talking about all these electric vehicles, so batteries weigh a lot. I don't know how heavy that's going to be compared, like a battery to power a semi truck, how heavy that would be compared to like a modern engine. I don't really know what the trade-off is there, but just adding 5,000 pounds already is, wow, that's a lot. And all of that's right there on the tractor. So it's not even distributed out. It's just sitting right there behind the cab. And it's going to be interesting if this one even gets off the ground. But apparently they've got a company they're working with is named JLE. I think it's a flatbed company, I think it said. And, they're going to be working on this with them, partnering with them. And right now they've got like 20 trucks that are ready to go. So if you see something weird on the back of a cab somewhere, hey, it might be one of these capture devices from Remora Carbon. That's going to be very interesting to watch. Who knows? Like many of these, earth-saving products, it may never go anywhere. We will see. To be continued, I guess. You know, if there's anything I've learned from doing this podcast for 10 years, yes, 10 years, it's that your time is important. And one of the best ways you can save time is by hiring someone to do something that you don't like to do. That's where Porter Freight Funding comes in. And the problem they solve is bad customers who don't want to pay. The last thing you need as a trucker is to do a job and not get paid for it. Well, you don't need that. You need the cash now. And you do that by calling Porter Freight Funding at 205-397-0934 and setting up an account. Once that's done, each time you have one of these problem child customers, you just drop off your load, submit your paperwork to Porter Freight Funding, and get paid within 24 hours. Easy peasy. Sure, you can always set up an ongoing account with Porter to just handle everything for you, or you can just use them for those pain in the butts that you just hate dealing with. Either way, Porter Freight Funding has got your back with not only collections, but also brokering, dispatching, fuel cards, insurance, and any questions you have about compliance. Give them a call at 205-397-0934 or go to porterfreightfunding.com/truckerdump. Truckerdump is all one word. And of course, there's a link in the show notes. And thanks to Porter Freight Funding for sponsoring this episode of Trucker Dump. Well, looky there, more government overreach. Wow, what a surprise. Found this one on thetruckersreport.com. This one is entitled, DOT Secretary Buttigieg plans to ignore Supreme Court ruling and target truckers using diesel engines, according to the Wall Street Journal. Now, the article does say that the Wall Street Journal claims to be politically neutral, and, well, you can certainly tell that they're at least hard on the Democrats, at least in this situation. So I guess we should get to the point here. You know, we talked about the AB5 rule recently and how the Supreme Court chose to not try this case, to even look at it. They just deemed it unnecessary and moved on. Well, they had a whole bunch of other things that they had to rule on before the end of this last session. Of course, one of them was the big Roe versus Wade thing. And another one that was largely overlooked was West Virginia versus the EPA. And this is a case where the state of West Virginia was saying that the EPA, which of course is the Environmental Protection Agency, had overstepped their bounds and leveled costly climate rules against power plants. And they were saying that is above their jurisdiction. And the Supreme Court ruled that that is in fact true. They went above and beyond what they're supposed to be controlling. Now, by association, the DOT is just another branch of the government that, regulates an industry, just like the EPA. EPA has a say in our stuff, with how our trucks are run and stuff like that, and, what the fuel mileage needs to be, goals for I said it again, for electric trucks. Well, the DOT also makes rules for truckers and all that kind of stuff. So here is the scathing quote from the Wall Street Journal. Quote, the Biden administration's climate ends always justify its illegal regulatory means. FHWA claims that states will have flexibility in setting CO2 reduction targets, but in the same breath declares they must align with the administration's goal to reduce emissions. In other words, states have flexibility as long as they do as the administration tells them. If they don't, they risk losing federal highway funding. This is coercive federalism. End quote. And again, that comes directly from the Wall Street Journal editorial board. So yeah, like I said, just as the EPA is overreaching, telling the coal industry that they need to crack down on certain things, they're saying the DOT is going beyond their means too. And what they are trying to do this, and they're not just coming out and doing it blatantly. What they're doing is they're trying to disguise this as a set of highway standards, and they're calling it performance goals. Now, let me quote the article themselves. Again, this is not the Wall Street Journal talking here, but the article from thetruckersreport.com. It says, quote, federal highway guidelines are intended to protect municipalities from pollution and intrusions. Rising CO2 emissions are widely viewed as a global issue dealt with through federal laws agreed upon by Congress and signed by the president. The The Buttigieg-led bureaucracy appears ready and willing to brush aside this inconvenient truth and use the power of this purse string to force states to conform to the DOT's political views and aspirations. Ouch. And the Wall Street Journal finishes up by saying, it's not even clear how states would comply with the rule. Unlike traditional vehicle pollutants, CO2 can't be easily measured by air quality monitors. Are states supposed to ban gas guzzlers and heavy-duty trucks from the road like vehicles that fail smog checks? Will they have to gauge truck tailpipe CO2 emissions at highway weigh stations? End of quote. Well, guess what? That's what California at least is planning on doing emissions checks at highway weigh stations for trucks. They've already said they're planning on doing that. Could it mean that they're going to be putting some of these trucks off the road? Sure sounds like it. I mean, if you don't pass the smog check, then take you off the road. Well, it does kind of sound a little bit like coercion, doesn't it? Very interesting. So if you want to read more about this and the whole article, you can find it on thetruckersreport.com, link in the show notes. You know, we truckers are all about adding new regulations, right? We're just so pumped when we get something else thrown in our face that's like, hey, you have to do this now too. Yeah, we just love that. Well, I found this one over on overdriveonline.com. This one is called Pennsylvania Passes New Snow and Ice Removal Law. Yep, this was in the works for quite a while and it just got passed just the other day. So it's pretty self-explanatory what it is. It's basically saying that drivers need to make, air quotes here, reasonable efforts to remove ice or snow from their vehicles within 24 hours following heavy winter storms. This one is called Christine's Law, and of course this happened all around the death of Christine Lambert on Christmas Day in 2005. And it's when a piece of ice dislodged from a passing box truck and it crashed through her windshield. And, that's unfortunate. And these kind of things do happen. Now, Pennsylvania's past state law has said that, a trucker could be liable for this kind of thing happening if it caused serious injury. But this new law is being more proactive. So the new law requires drivers to make an effort to remove ice and snow from their vehicles. Duh. But it does make two exceptions for motor carrier vehicles, mass transit vehicles, and buses. And those two conditions are either the driver is en route to get the snow removed somewhere and they're stopped by law enforcement. They need to be able to prove they were heading somewhere to get that snow and ice off there. Or, and this one is the more interesting one, the second one just basically it's kind of weird. It kind of makes everything null and void, in my opinion. It says compliance with the requirement causes the driver to violate any other federal or state law or regulation regarding workplace safety or would be a threat to the health or safety of the driver. Well, this is the whole problem with this kind of stuff in the past. They've made laws about this, in other states and things like that. And, well, what do? It's like, how does a driver get up on top of a trailer? It's 13.6 in the air or taller, and scrape snow off without injuring themselves, or putting themselves honestly in deathly peril. You could fall off there and kill yourself. So this one's basically just saying, but hey, you don't have to worry about it, or the cops can't nail you if it would put you in, if your personal safety. Well, isn't that always going to be the case? I'm just a little confused by that one. It seems to leave a great big huge loophole in there, and maybe that is planned. I don't know. But anyway, this law did go into effect. It goes into effect, I think, next week. So by the time the next snow happens in Pennsylvania, this law will be going on there. So just beware that if you've got, a foot of snow up on top of your truck or whatever the cops deem as dangerous, you could be ticketed for this. And I don't know, maybe you'll just have to fight using this little exemption down here, if you have to go to court for it or something like that. But obviously we don't want to be, having snow and ice coming off the top of our trucks, or, blinding them with the snow, or worse, in like this ice incident here causing death, or just really bad accidents, pileups, things like that. We don't want any of that. But what can you do? A lot of, or not a lot, but some customers now, big DC, big distribution centers and stuff will have those big, snow plows that are up in the air and you can drive underneath them, or usually they want their yard guys to drive underneath them. That way it's their fault if something goes wrong, which is fine by me. But not every facility has those, and, even if every customer, every place in Pennsylvania decided to get them and install them in their, at their facilities, it still doesn't mean that you're traveling through the state. Maybe you picked up in Ohio or New York or something and you're going to go through Pennsylvania. And anyway, this is just, one more thing we got to worry about. And one of those things that we can get a ticket for that's completely out of our control, pretty much. Anyway, there's no good solutions to get this stuff off the top of your trailer. I've reported on some of them here in the past, and it involves bringing out a big, piece of equipment to the side of the road somewhere, like a big backhoe or a big dozer, not a dozer, but a backhoe or something with some kind of an attachment on it. That's just expensive and crazy to think you're going to have to sit around and wait on all that. Anyway, just love this kind of stuff, don't you? Yeah. OverdriveOnline.com. Well, Overdrive Online just brought us some bad news when it comes to legislation, but hey, let's let them bring us some good news. This one involves background checks. There are a number of trucking groups that are trying to get rid of redundant background checks and, having to pay multiple fees. And what they're talking about here is for security credentials. So the American Trucking Association, the Truckload Carriers Association, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association, lots of associations here, National Tank Truck Carriers, and the National Private Truck Council, they all penned a letter to the U.S. House and Senate. They want to pass something called the Transportation Security Administration Security Threat Assessment Application Modernization Act. Holy crapiola. That is a big mouthful, isn't it? Basically, what this says is that you would be able to do one TSA background, and it would be enabled you to enroll in multiple TSA programs, such as the TWIC card, which it stands for Transportation Worker Identification Credentials, which is basically what you need to get into the ports and stuff like that, and the hazmat endorsement. So as of now, you have to do those things, both of them separate. Each of them have their own background checks, and it's just quite dumb, really, and just wastes our money. So this has been introduced in both the House and the Senate, and I don't see why this wouldn't pass. It seems just a nice way to streamline things, make things a little bit easier on everybody. Quit taxing the system so much, and also just not dig into truckers' pockets quite so much. So I hope this passes, and I will keep you informed as to how it's going. Again, this was just sent off to Congress, so it, with them, we'll probably get some results from this in 2025 or somewhere around there, right? Fingers crossed. Although my fingers are going to get really, really cramped holding it for 3 years. Hey, here's a news source for you. This comes from haletrailer.com. That's HALE trailer.com. They are the largest independent trailer dealership in North America. And they wrote an article called The Top 15 Best Truck Stops in America You Have to Visit. So here you go. If you're looking for something new out there on the road, someplace different to stop than just your, normal big chain truck stop that you see all the time. Although some of these are big truck stop chains. Anyway, now, of course, with these top lists, it's always like, what's the criteria, right? Well, they've got different criteria here. The first is online reviews. That comes from Yelp and Google and TripAdvisor, places like that. So they took that into consideration. They've got the food offering score as part of it, so if it's just, stuff over the, like in a deli, or if it's just packaged foods, or if they have a full sit down restaurant, independent restaurant compared to like a chain restaurant. So they judge it all on that. Another category is, amenity offerings. So, do they just have bathrooms? Do they not have bathrooms at all? Do they have, Wi-Fi and laundromat and movie theaters and all that other stuff? So they judge it on that. Another one is unique attraction bonus score. So they can get some extra points if they've got some kind of a neat store, like, Iowa 80 has some unique stores in there, with that whole truck shop and everything. So that would probably be in there too. Now here's the one that's a little weird. I thought they ranked partly by a national monument vicinity. So they wanted to, choose places that were close, like within a 20-mile radius of national parks and monuments. Now, I don't know how important that is to truckers, but that is part of the score. So take that into consideration when you're looking at this list. Now, this list is actually pretty good. It gives you the scores for each one of those categories and a total score, and it tells you just a little bit about each of these truck stops in case, you've never been to one. I have not been to many of these, didn't even recognize many of them, but that's because, my companies have always fueled at the big chains, and that's just typically where I went. And let's just face it, I have no sense of adventure. So there's that too, just same old for me. But hey, if you're interested, let me run down through the list real fast for you, and then you can just go and check out the link here in the show notes if you're interested in more of these. Of course, the first one they list is the Iowa 80, Walcott, Iowa. That is the biggest truck stop in the world, they say. So, number 2 would be the Kinley 95 Petro in Kinley, North Carolina. I do know that one. This one I do not know. Flynn's Truck Plaza in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. Busy Bee Travel Center comes in at number 4. That's at Live Oak, Florida. Never heard of that one. How about Bighorn Travel Center at number 5 in Fort Worth, Texas? Nope. And I've spent plenty of time in Fort Worth, so I'm surprised I haven't heard of that one. Number 6 is the Keystone Restaurant and Truck Stop in Loretto, Pennsylvania. Nope. Once again, number 7 I have heard of, and it's pretty cool. Jubit's Travel Center in Portland, Oregon. Number 8 would be I-40 Travel Center. That's the Workman's Travel Center Hillbilly Hideout in Ozark, Arkansas. And that's fairly close to my home, so I'm surprised I've never heard of that one. Number 9, south of the border in Hamer, South Carolina. Number 10, Dysarts Truck Stop, Herman, Maine. I've heard of that, but I've never been there before. Number 11, kind of surprising, honestly, Beckley Tamarack Travel Plaza in Beckley, West Virginia. This one's on the toll road, and it's just one of those travel plazas, but it does have some, other stores in it and stuff like that. Number 12, Little America Travel Center in Little America, Wyoming. That was a cool one. It's actually got it used to. I don't know if it still has the golf course connected to it, a little 9-hole golf course. Not sure if that's still a thing. They don't mention it here in the article. Number 13 is the Chesapeake House Travel Plaza. Again, this is a travel plaza, not, like out on the toll road, or not a toll road. Is it a toll road? Yeah, it might be a toll road. But anyway, number 14, 301 Travel Center, Middletown, Delaware. Nope, no clue. And I don't have a clue on the last one either. Number 15, Noble's Restaurant and Truck Stop, Corinth, Kentucky. So, hey, here's my suggestion. Go check out this article, then go to some of these places, visit some of these unique restaurants and stuff that they have, and then send in a Trucker Grub comment. And if you don't know what the heck I'm talking about with Trucker Grub, well, just stick around. I will cover that and how you can do your own right after the news is over. Again, this one is on hailtrailer.com. Link in the show notes. And thanks to Hail Trailer for bringing this to my attention. Cool article. All right, to finish up today, I would just like to remind you one last time that if you want to put in your comments with the Federal Registry and the federal government, let them know what you think about these truck speed limiters that they're thinking about doing. Well, they're pushing, let's put it that way. They're not thinking about it. They're pushing for it really, really hard. And it's going to take something drastic to keep them from doing it. So anyway, the last day you can do this is July 18th. So I put a link in the show notes so you can get your butt over there and do it right now. Okay? I've done it. You should do it. Don't complain about it if it happens, if you didn't put your 2 cents in. But if you do put your 2 cents in, then you got every right to complain about it. Isn't that great? All right. Like I said, July 18th, get on it. And that will do it for the news. So, hey, I mentioned earlier that you could send in your own Trucker Grub segment. Well, for those of you who do not know, that is your favorite place to eat that you can get to, reasonable distance, walking from a truck, or maybe they actually have truck parking. You can send in an audio comment. Just open your phone, voice memo, turn off the truck so it's nice and quiet. Give me about a 3-minute dialogue or less. Just tell me a little bit about the restaurant, where it's at, the name of it, prices, and the atmosphere, maybe your favorite meal, all that kind of stuff, and shoot it off to in an email to truckerdump@gmail.com. Didn't have one for this week, but, hey, you could be next. So with that, let's just hear from you.
Hey, yo, bud, where do you want this load of feedback?
Okay. Last week I mentioned that we had a whole bunch of Trucker Dump Slack requests to join the group, and we were going to hit those up this week, and that's what we're going to do. I do have one other from David White. I got your email, and that's going to take me a little bit of reading. I thought it was an audio book that I could listen to, but it was not. So it's going to take me a little bit of reading, and, well, I'm slow at that kind of stuff, so I'll get back and we'll talk to you, Driver Dave, in a future episode. That one pertains to sleep, so he's a bit concerned about me not getting enough sleep with this new weekly schedule. But regardless, let's move on. We have got John Shirley with one of those short and to-the-point emails. May I be added to the Slack group? Of course, John. Of course you can. How about Chris Williams? He writes, hey, I'm Chris Williams. Been in the industry going on 8 years, anywhere from 18-wheelers to hotshot, flatbed, and car hauling. Curious to know how you feel about hotshot. I'd also like to be added to the Slack group, please, sir. Oh, sir. What's this sir crap, Chris? No. I read this earlier, and I just completely looked over that part about the hot shotting. I have no feeling about it whatsoever. I don't know anything about it except for what I learned about it from Buck over at the Trucking Podcast. And he used to do it. I think he used to haul some trailers and stuff like that, some RVs. And, he was a fan of it. I don't know anything about it whatsoever. Is it a good career? Don't know. If you're curious, you might want to reach out to Buck over at the Trucking Podcast. By the way, I have heard from him that he has hit the road again. He was kind of abandoned his podcast for a while and was doing yard work, driving a yard truck in the Wisconsin Green Bay area, and he has hit the road again. So he's going to pick the podcast back up and start doing it again. So that's cool. So make sure you go and check out the Trucking Podcast with Buck, and I assume he's still going to do it with his son, Don the beer guy. So, they cover all kinds of stuff over there. It's not just a trucking related podcast. Like on this, everything is trucking related on the Trucker Dump. But on the Trucking Podcast, they talk about stuff that truckers like to talk about, like cars, old trucks and camping even, just whatever is on their mind. It's more of an entertainment show than it is a news show, so to speak. So check that out for the millionth time. That is called The Trucking Podcast, and you can get that on iTunes or just search for it within your favorite podcast app. I'm not sure if it's on Spotify and, what's that other one, Stitcher and all those or not, but just search around for it and you will find it. And I wish Buck and Don all the luck in kicking that sucker back in. So thank you, Chris, for asking to join the group. I hope you have a good time while you're in there. Next up, we hear from Dave Wiedemann. When I was really poor, we used to drink a beer called Wiedemann, and it was not good. I mean, it tasted fine going down, but the next day, well, it didn't come out so well, if you know what I mean. So So anyway, Dave Wiedemann, hopefully no relation, he says, hello, Todd. I'm interested in becoming an over-the-road driver. I've been exploring the industry and learning about how to go about getting my CDL Class A. I found your podcast and already know way more about the trucking industry because of the content in each episode. I appreciate the time you invest in your podcast. Keep up the good work. Could you please send me a link so I can join your Slack channel, please? Yes, Dave, I did that. I keep saying I did it, and I hope I did it to everyone who asked. Sometimes I, am really bad at email. So if you have asked to join the Slack group and I have not responded, or I said I gave you an invite and I never actually sent it, please send me an email to truckerdump@gmail.com saying, hey, send me my Slack invite, you bonehead. Okay? All right, next up, we've got R.E. Smith. He writes, hello, Todd. Can you please add me to the Slack group you speak about on your podcast? Yep, sure can. And two more quick ones. We hear from Simply Nikki. That's actually Nicolle. She says, hey, Todd, I've been listening to your podcast for about 1.5 years now. Seriously, love what you do and have kept my interest in the trucker life since day one, since before I took my permit. I moved from Puerto Rico just to start my new life on the road. So far, loving it. Been a silent spectator, but since today I passed by Missouri, I said, heck, why not? And here I am asking to be in the Slack group to expand my knowledge with the pros. Pros, man, I'm feeling all cool now. Thanks, Nicolle. Invitation sent. And lastly, we're going to hear today from Scott Brown. He writes, hey, Todd, I'm Scott, a local driver from Georgia. I've been listening to the podcast for a couple years now, and I'm interested in joining the Slack group. Thanks for all the knowledge and laughs you share with us. Keep up the good work, and I look forward to getting into the group with you guys. Scott Brown, a.k.a. Roadblock. Nice handle, Scott. Digging it. So, hey, I think I got, 4 or 5 more of these. Well, it looks like 3 more right now for the next episode. So if you want to get your voice heard on not your voice. Well, actually, I would love for your voice to be on the podcast. All you got to do is send audio comments. I love audio comments, and they almost always jump to the head of the class, if you know what I mean. So that can be on suggestions, questions, comments, concerns about the podcast. Whatever you want to talk to me about is fine. Just tell me your story, how you got into trucking, and, when you started listening to the podcast, whatever you want to do. I just like to hear other voices on the show, and I'm sure other people like to hear other voices too. Just do me a favor, turn your truck off before you do the recording. Keep it about 3 minutes or less and send it off to truckerdump@gmail.com. So, hey, I appreciate everyone who wrote in. That would be John, Chris, Dave, R.E., Nicolle, and Scott. Like I said before, I just love it when I hear that somebody's been listening to the podcast for a long time and they're finally writing in. I hope that, starts a new trend for you. Maybe you won't just join the Trucker Dump Slack group. Hopefully you'll be a part of that and, be an active member of the group. Speak up, ask questions, bring up topics and conversations. No question is a dumb question in the Trucker Dump Slack group. We don't make fun of you in there, and if anybody does make fun of you, we're going to kick their butt, okay? No, well, we're not going to kick butt, but no, that's not the way we roll the Trucker Dump Slack group. We're respectful. We answer your questions because we know you wouldn't be asking it if you already knew the answer. Or hey, if Facebook is your thing, we've got a bunch of great people over there. The Trucker Dump Facebook group is available, and you can find the links to both of those in the show notes, which can be found in your podcast app, or you can just go to abouttruckdriving.com and search for Trucker Dump 164. Or actually, there's a subscribe section in the menu on the website, and you can go there and find out how to follow me and how to contact me and all that good stuff. So I guess that will about do it for this week's show. Looks like it's probably a little bit longer than I anticipated, but I don't feel like it's all that long because I'm taking it in little bitty tiny chunks. Super pleased with the way this is coming out so far. Hope you are too. Drop me a line and let me know. I would appreciate it. truckerdump@gmail.com. But hey, before we go, I'd like to thank this week's sponsor, Porter Freight Funding. You can learn more at porterfreightfunding.com/truckerdump. Truckerdump's all one word. Or give them a call at 205-397-0934. Or just use the handy dandy link in the show notes. All right, in the great send-off from Cher from Clueless, I'm outie. Okay, so I've mentioned the Trucker Dump Slack group and the Facebook pages. I've begged for audio recordings for the Trucker Grub segment, or anything else for that matter, and I've shoved the ebook combo pack down your throat multiple times. So what's next? Well, I guess I can tell you that you should go to abouttruckdriving.com to learn more about all this stuff. You'll also find today's show notes there by searching for TD164. You know, hey, something I always forget to mention is that if you subscribe to the newsletter from the website, you'll receive all the show notes in your email inbox each week. How cool is that? Well, as always, I appreciate you following and listening to the show. So until next time, drive safe and stay out of my way. They're trying to They're trying to autonomate. Is that what I was going to say? Autonomate. Is that a word? I doubt it. Wow. Hey, I found this next one over on... Where? Where did I find it? Or if you want to get both of those books for 25% off, head on over to abouttruckdriving.com and check out the ebook. I did this last week. Good grief. Quote, the Biden administration's climate ends always justifies its illegal regular... I'm going to turn into mean. Hey, here's a bit of better... here's a bit of... Hey, also on... Speak clearly.